Big Game Freaks. Our topic today will be what a true gamer is, what a proper personality should be, attributes, what games to play, and why we feel so important.
Especially, it is our definition, our personal definition of each one of us, because we have kind of a contrasting view at some parts.
Now, both of our definitions is very true, equally true. It's only equally false when we say that we should not learn more. Now, I got this from a friend, and I agree with him. There is no one true definition, but both Juan and I agree with that.
Yes.
There is no one true model.
It's a matter of opinion, but, well, we contrast on that opinion, and I think it's fine. I accept his opinion, he accepts mine. And, well, we'll share it with you. What is your view on what a true gamer should be?
Now, to be very general, which is true for any gamer, those who are in the practice of playing games, they enjoy it, and those who wish to learn more. Now, what I mean by in the practice of they're currently playing it. If they are busy, that's fine. But if they're currently playing it and they want to learn more, that is what I feel is a true gamer. Now, what about you?
Well, my definition of a true gamer is pretty much a person that plays video games more than casually. That is a person that not only plays on his iPhone or on his cell phone.
Yeah.
And, well, that is also not afraid to identify with the term video gamer. Because some people are really ashamed of being a video gamer.
Sure.
And stuff like that.
But what about true gamers who are closeted? What would you say about that?
I really think it's...
Because people get made fun of for being called gamers.
Yes, but the thing is
or
that
playing children's games.
Being a video gamer is not really something bad. I mean, sure,
No.
there are stereotypes that all video gamers are aggressive or vulgar
Or they play only childish games.
or sexist or I don't know, stuff like that.
That's template.
I know, but those are stereotypes. But a true gamer is not really afraid of those stereotypes, and neither is not part of those stereotypes. Hopefully.
No, not at all. No.
And, well,
But those who are true gamers must confront the stereotypes and prove people that they are not those people.
yeah, and it's a shame that the stereotype goes like that, and also maybe some extreme stereotype says that gamers are I don't know, maybe aggressive
Or single-minded.
or single-minded or maybe school killers and stuff like that.
Because, yes, we see many news articles, many papers that use scare tactics and tactical use of information that makes gamers look like drug addicts.
Yeah, and they also blame video games for these atrocious acts of violence in schools and stuff like that, and it's not really that the case, because
that's the hot topic in game research in mainstream media.
And that
even politicians are not in favor of games. Like with Barack Obama, he says, no TV and video games. And some people took offense to it.
And the awful thing is that the thing that people don't see is that a person who is violent will be violent without video games.
Yes, it all boils down to the individual.
Yeah, it's an individual thing, and if a person is mentally ill, the games won't really have any effect on it.
I just want to make a quote. I'm quoting Adam Sessler of G4. This is when he was arguing with Jack Thompson, a person who hates video games and is still trying to make a case to ban video games or violent video games in America. It got declined many times, thankfully. Adam Sessler says he believes that there's been violence since the time of Pong, even though he's being sarcastic, is very true. That it's not games that is the root of all violence, as some people suggest.
And that is true. It's not really just a video games that makes you violent or anything like that. It's your whole environment as an individual.
And to segue back, a true gamer is beyond the stereotype.
Yes, and also
convince others that she is an independent.
Yes. And, well, also another part of my definition of a true video gamer,
yes,
it is also a person with a varied taste in video games that won't turn down a video game just because it looks cartoonish or infantile, as is the case of the false hardcore gamers that only play Halo, Call of Duty, and Madden NFL games.
And you talk about that because they want to call themselves true gamers to compare themselves to others, but they only single themselves out to one thing, and they say only that kind of game is good.
Yeah, and
while they bash others.
Those are the Call of Duty and Halo fanboys, pretty much. I mean, it's not it's not that the games are bad, but they single themselves to play those games
Just
specifically, just that, and don't see anything else in the horizon.
And it's only been made since 2000 and 2011.
Yeah, and it's a shame because there's so much stuff, so much good games that come out recently, and they don't.
Oh yeah, they're great games, and they often get missed.
Yeah, they get missed because of that, and that's a shame.
I actually looked at the video game charts of Dragon Quest IX.
Wow.
And other games. Now watch this. Now it said that 4.7 million sales in Japan, and we only have a few 100,000.
That's a shame, too.
That's a shame. We don't even have 1 million. We
Yeah.
barely make a fourth of the sales.
Wow, that's very few.
Well, America at least.
Yeah, and that's one of your favorite games.
I was looking at other little charts, but another fun fact, apparently Disgaea is more popular in America than it is Japan.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it was said by one of the makers of Pokemon. I'm not sure if it's by Satoshi, but he said that Americans understand Pokemon more than Japanese people do, with a sense of adventure, not by the sense of overanalyzing an anime.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
That's interesting. But games that come out like Mario games, new Mario games, there are some of these false hardcore people, the hardcore gamers that says, Mario, who plays that anymore?
Yes,
guess what?
If they say it's for babies, then the true gamers would truly irk at them.
Yes, because there are great games that may look cartoonish or I don't know, infantile, but they are fun to play. They are a nice adventure and all the stuff.
Well, I don't think games that have cartoon animation is considered infantile. I think it's just looking at fun.
Yeah. I personally have more of a fun factor, a focus on the games, and it's a shame that some people only look at graphics and how much blood is in the game and stuff like that.
Because like in the previous video that we made, I were to tell you a game about a story about a bear with a bird in his backpack and he rescues his sister from being ugly by an evil witch.
Yeah.
Would you think it might be a bad game?
No, that depends totally on the gameplay.
The game mechanic, exactly.
Yeah, depends totally on the gameplay and game mechanics.
Yes, because I've been looking more into it, and the true gamers would be able to look past the game story and the game narrative and look at the game mechanic that makes a very fun game.
Yes, definitely.
That's how a pink ball that absorbs people and takes their powers can be fun and can be great gameplay.
Yes, because when you read the description of the game, you pretty much say, "What the hell is this?"
Maybe, but gamers would look at the game mechanic.
Definitely, and
that's what makes a game like that fun.
Yeah, that's what it makes.
That's our focus. Not so much, is this a cartoon character that I can call myself manly in?
Yeah.
Not at all. No.
Not
we
at
say,
all.
is this a fun idea?
Yes, and you gotta see the game not only on the cover or not only on the surface. You gotta try the game. You gotta see what the game is about, and see if it's good or not by yourself. Not really go with what people say also.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think the next thing we need to talk about is the attributes of what makes a gamer. What are the things that define the true gamer? Now, do you think, Juan, that skill makes up a true gamer? A set amount of skill.
Well, definitely a person who cannot beat the first stage of Mario 1 may not be a true gamer, but I think that a person doesn't need
What would we say about them? That he needs his horizons widened a little bit.
Yeah, that he maybe needs a little bit practice, but I don't think that you need to be an expert in video games to be a true gamer, because it's all about...
we say that it requires a basic amount of skill.
Yeah, basic one, but you don't have to be that skilled to be a true gamer, in my opinion, because as long as you're trying to have fun with video games and not be narrow-minded, I think that's important. That's very important.
Well, the reason why I say it is because most youth nowadays, especially with younger youth, don't even know how to play a 2D game.
And that's a shame.
Because if you notice, most children, when they hold a 2D controller, they only have their finger on one button and do not know how to, for some reason, focus on two buttons with their thumb, the tip of the thumb on the B button and the other part of the thumb on the A button. With the SNES too, how to transfer your buttons.
And it's funny because the Xbox controllers and the PS3 controllers
are more complex, yes.
Buttons all over the place.
Yeah, I've been reading a section on a book called Everything Bad is Good for You, and they talked about the increasing complexity of games, where instead of having 2 to 4 buttons, we have now 10 to 15 buttons.
Yeah, and that's a lot of
in
a
so
lot
many
of
weird
buttons.
places.
Yes.
Even on the back of the controller.
Yes, and that's on the N64. But it's kind of a shame that people are turning down these old games just because they are 2D,
Too old or too difficult.
too old or too difficult.
But then there's the retro gamer who believes that all 3D games are bad, and I've heard of people like that too.
Wow, that's another extreme, and I think that's negative
Yes,
too.
we do not like the either ors, but the true gamer knows how to mix them in.
Yeah, he's in the middle ground, enjoying 2D, 3D, and all. And every game.
with 3D games, that's only about 15 years. But with 2D games, that's 43 years. So I feel that a little balance of each should be important.
Definitely, a true gamer
Just a
should.
taste of it.
A true gamer should enjoy.
And know the minimum references. The minimum things, such as all gamers should know Mario.
Definitely, I personally would recommend to newcomers to get into Mario Bros. 3, even though Mario Bros. 1 is kind of
I still recommend it. No, don't exclude him. That's
not. I won't exclude it at all. The first Mario is simply magic, but for some newcomers, maybe the controllers may not be that appealing. But to
we
me,
would say it's difficult for nowadays, but to exclude playing the game
oh
would
no,
be
no,
a bad
no, no,
idea.
no. I think it will be a bad idea to exclude it. But I personally, to get people into Mario and to the 2D Mario,
Yes,
I
you
will,
suggested to.
I
Go
would
ahead.
suggest Super Mario Bros. 3 because I think that's the upgraded version of the first
Now,
Mario.
why would you suggest number 3? I was going to think that you'd choose Mario Galaxy because it's an easier game.
Oh no.
3 is equally tough.
I mean for
As
the
well.
for the 2D Marios.
Yeah, okay, if we recommend a 2D Mario.
Marios. Yes, I would recommend Super Mario Bros. 3 because I think it has aged very well. It looks pretty nice, and it controls very nicely, and it's pretty appealing to be sincere.
Well, what about New Super Mario Bros? Would you recommend that? Because it is easier. If your approach was introduced to an easy Mario game that's 2D and then go tougher.
A new Super Mario Bros. Wii. I think I
Or
will
New Super Mario
recommend.
Bros. for the DS.
I will probably recommend the new Super Mario Bros. Wii, especially because it's fun to play with friends. And
Would you want to introduce the DS game first or the Wii first?
the Wii game first?
Because I was going to think DS, because you don't want to look at a new game and say, it's got all the features. Then you go down once and you think, it doesn't have the features. It's not as fun.
Yeah, but the person is definitely
And
gonna
someone who's
be-
new into games would not see past the superficial, that this came next, this is what it's added to the table, and when you look at something downgraded, then it might be boring for them.
Yeah, but a person that looks first at the contemporary games and then looks at the retro games, they definitely know that there has been a long time before each one.
Then we hope that the person doing it in that order would say, this is great stuff, this is history, and wow, this is so amazing.
This great game came out of this game. I think that's what
We
they
hope
should.
that they say that. I don't want them to say this is too old. Gaming was nothing back then. That's a
Yeah.
misconception of games.
I think so. That's awful. That's an awful thing to hear.
I guess for people that I would want to introduce to games, for example, our children in the future, I would want to show them old games first, and then new games to really appreciate gaming all around. To actually have them say, "I like adventure." The old Atari 2600 game. That is an amazing thing to hear.
To me, my approach is more like show them the more appealing and not that hard game first. And if I get the person hooked into that video game, and I'm talking about not only newcomers but also people who are not into video games at all.
Yes.
So get them hooked at first, and then show them, hey, this is where this game came from. It was a little bit more difficult, a little bit more limited, but this is where it came from. But first, show them the more appealing game, so they can get hooked to the video games.
I guess I want to show them the old game because it starts them off with skill, because back then there were higher demands. So start with them off with higher demands, and then they'll be trained for the other games. That's what I'm feeling.
That's a good approach, but my approach is pretty different. I prefer to get them into the game first, and then maybe explore other games from the same franchise.
But the funny thing is, we've got different majors, and that kind of influences how we should introduce people to games. Pretty interesting.
Maybe.
No, because watch this. Well, my major is teaching, and with being an educator, you want them to know base things, and know the histories of things. For example, knowing the contemporary works, knowing some older works.
Yes.
So as a teacher, that's how I let it out. Introduce them to the hard old games or the classics, and then they can spread out from that knowledge, from that base. and you are a psychology major.
Yes.
Now, you say that to get them into games, you don't want to introduce them to the appealing games, then have them spread out to maybe old games and have them appreciate that too.
And that is because if a person is introduced to a video game,
because it also seems you have a business approach too.
Kind of. But I think that if you show a person a game that may be too difficult, they may.
Well, you're using the word "too." That means you're saying more than difficult for them.
Yeah, I mean, for new gamers, for people who are still discovering games, I think it's more important to show them a more appealing and easier game first, because if you show them a game that is too hard, they may get some kind of fear to the game and say, hey, this is too difficult, I don't want it, I don't like this, I don't like Mario, go to hell, or something like that.
But then how do we explain gamers that started off with hard games? That's all there was, but they still loved games. How do you explain them?
Well, we'll have to explain them
and
ourselves.
The NES got over 60 million sales. They were hard, but they were still fun. What is their excuse? Why did they get started with hard games?
Well, that's because over time gamers have been pretty much spoiled with the difficulty.
Now we're getting pampered nowadays
with
certain games.
And well, I don't think in certain games it's that bad, but in other games maybe.
Well, yeah. Well, I know it's the shooting games. The reason why it's not so popular with mainstream because it's been labeled as violent, but it's also very unapproachable, and we don't have that perhaps stepladder. But let's think of some easy games nowadays. Well, what do we have as easy games nowadays?
Super Mario Galaxy was.
We got tons of party games.
Oh yes, party games like. Also, aside from Mario Party, we also have like Wii Sports.
I was thinking of Wii Sports,
Wii Sports,
Wii Play, Wii Resort, the Kinect games,
Wii Fit also.
The Play games, the what is that?
The new games for the PlayStation Move.
I was gonna say that too, but Nintendogs. Well, that's pretty cute. That's a pretty cool idea. I guess because it has that pure game feeling, it's very funny. It's very fun. Lots of games made from movies and lots of games made from cartoons.
Yeah, I think
those really pamper you.
I mean, if
they're tough, they're a fluke.
I think that's okay for little children, maybe, whose parents maybe worried about what they are playing, but I think it's a shame that they kind of miss out on the old school games because they don't have someone to teach them about it. But
because I would never buy a SpongeBob game.
Oh.
I would never.
I personally...
Because they're remakes of better games.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
I'm personally not too much into those casual games, and I mean, I don't throw stones at them, but I think...
I'm not throwing stones, but I would just never make that purchase.
Yes, that is pretty much what I was going to say.
Now... what about the good games nowadays? What games should we make praise to that still tries to be hard, or at least still tries to be fun, while still keeping the game world and is still immersive?
Do you mean contemporary games or all games?
Contemporary.
I personally will recommend BioShock.
It is good, even though it's labeled as violent. It does have good narrative.
It has a good immersive story. It has a great atmosphere. Sure, it has violence, but it's.
But it's
not what it's
BioShock
all about.
is a very smart game. No, it's more than just violence.
Yes.
They question a world that is very scientific, but a world without laws, and then that became corrupted. It's very smart along the way.
Yeah, it has a good narrative, a good atmosphere,
and games like BioShock and the FPS have really changed gaming, because back then shooting had a very light touch on the story. Then they released into the open worlds of the labyrinths.
Yes, and with BioShock,
it changed the FPS. There have been others in the past. I'm trying to think of if there was a first game that turned FPS into a narrative like BioShock would do. Because you get the randomized maps, and then at certain points in the map, then you get story. Not at the end of the level, then you're getting a story. Or in certain old shooting games, there's only a story at the very beginning or very end. Or if it was the very beginning, you get that details in the instruction manual. For example, Doom and Quake. Or get maybe a cool cutscene at the end of the game, such as Duke Nukem, where the only ending is you kick the monster's, I will say it, eye over a football goal. That's the ending.
Wow.
And that was a great shooter game, but there's no there is a very lack of story. It does not involve much at all.
Yeah, and that's why I think Bioshock is pretty much one of these contemporary games.
And it's heavy into the story.
Yes.
They kind of lock you in certain scenes. You're going down that elevator, or they have you watch a window. You cannot even hold a weapon while you're looking at it. You cannot mess up the story, too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I saw funny criticism with FPS. FPS back then, elaborate map. It was actually the map of the first level of Doom. Then, nowadays maps. One big line, and in between that line it says, on arrows, cutscene, cutscene, cutscene.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about all the other true games. And as we finish contemporary, then let's look at the games we should feel the gamers should be at least touched upon.
Well, another contemporary game I think it will be very recommendable for any gamer will be Portal.
All right.
That's a great
It's
game.
a very smart innovation.
Yeah, that has also a funny touch to the game.
GLaDOS makes me such an evil person. I hated that one scene.
Yes, and not also that, but the storytelling came at the end, pretty much at the end of the game, pretty much.
No, the dialogue was very smart.
Yes.
And the thing is, the dialogue in the game has no meaning on the story at all. I'm very sorry. Does not affect how you play the game at all.
Yes.
You're still thinking as the explorer to still complete the level.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have to say that all games have a story. They all have a narrative, no matter how simple it is. Because I'm now doing research in video games and storytelling. Some people say that there is no narrative merit in video games. What do you think about that statement?
I don't think so. I mean, each game has a story. I mean, maybe old games like Pong, maybe they don't have a story.
No. Well, here's the cool thing. Even in simple games like that, there's even still a story.
Really?
Watch this, and this is a funny example. The researcher that disagreed with that man said, "What about Space Invaders? There must be a narrative in order to know what the game's about. It's about space invaders that will invade Earth, and you will protect the Earth from being invaded by space monsters. Without that story, you're not even sure what you're going to be doing. Without that story, you have no motivation. So that is narrative.
That makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. So yes, even the most simplest games have narrative. So I will wonder where I'd want to start in that approach. But yes, all games have a narrative to an extent. But if we were to compare narrative in literature to narrative in books,
that's very different.
That's different.
Yeah, it's a different contrast.
And you have to be selective with that.
Yes.
But that's just one topic. All right, now let's talk about games all around that we should think all gamers, true gamers, should be equipped with. Now, the first that I said was Super Mario Bros. Even though that was 1985, I think that's a great starting point for those who see gaming as creative. But I also think that gamers should at least be in touch with some variation of Pong, just to touch those roots. Don't you think? Or do you think it's too old?
I think that it's a game that is not that appealing to today's audiences, but I think if a person is interested in knowing the history of gaming and is interested in being an overall better gamer, more of an expert than others, I think they should be familiar with Pong.
But even with my first recommendation, there's a limitation, because I'm saying what game I started with, and I said it made me who I am today, and that's why I know so much game history. But I say that to have a good starting point, it's great. I think that all true gamers should at least touch a variation of Pong, or touch some of the old games, or at least hold an old game console, or at least have the desire to, at least. Just like with Japanese anime lovers, they at least want a desire to see what Japan is like. That kind of feel.
To me, it's not really necessary to know.
To have a desire
to
play those old games, or
to play games,
to play them.
Before NES, and that's.
But that's only because we're at this age. We're only 22. You're younger than me, right?
No, I'm 23.
23. I thought so. I was going to say 23, but I say I'm not 23. I'm 22. Let's see. What else do you think old gamers should know? No, I think that old games too. If we were one generation older, then we'd be saying we should have them play Pitfall. We should have them play Space Invaders, Asteroids. We would say that, right?
The thing is that to me, when Mario,
we don't want to create a limitation because of our age.
I pretty much played Atari games, but when Mario Bros came out, it pretty much changed the
It
whole.
was everything for us.
Yeah, it changed the whole gaming industry and what a game was supposed to be. And I don't think that games that are pre-Mario are really that appealing to new gamers, in my opinion.
I'd say that a true gamer should at least have the desire to at least try it or something. But then you can have an opinion of what you like. But at least to know them is fine.
To try them and to get to know them, sure. But to be an expert on them and play them all day.
No, I'm not saying you have to be an expert.
So.
That's only the standards that each individual holds to themselves.
Yeah.
But if you want to hold a professional job, then of course. But as a hobby or a passion, of course, you can have tastes, and then you can have just things you should know about, and that's what we're kind of discussing a little bit here.
Yeah, but I think that should have an interest to check them out, but maybe not play them for hours and stuff like that.
Oh,
so what other games do you think a true gamer must play? Well,
the arguable best game of all time, Zelda Ocarina of Time. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, definitely. That all true gamers should at least know what it was called the best.
I think so, and I'm gonna...
You're gonna get the game soon, too.
I'm gonna get the game maybe after the 3DS launches, if it launches with this game. Because I want to play that game badly, but since the game is gonna be relaunched with the 3DS, I want to experience it in that console.
Okay, now, in your opinion, we were talking about Pokemon.
Yes.
Another game that we think all true gamers should play.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about Gold and Silver versus Heart Gold, Soul Silver. You said that if the remake attracts more gamers, they should be playing that. And I feel that in order for them to know...
I mean to get some new people introduced to the Pokemon world. I think maybe the most recent game will be a good way to get
a good way to start them.
Yes.
I'd want to start them with the originals.
And that's okay, but my approach is pretty much different.
And say, welcome to this brand new idea, and this is how it was back then. And they can see how Pokemon grew in there. I'd want to introduce them to the originals first, then show them to the developments of it.
I would prefer to introduce them to the more appealing, more good-looking, the one that has more features, and show them. And if they like it, hey, this is where it came from. This is what we played when it came out, and it was the boom.
Well, I'd say that if the game was unappealing enough, I'd even show the commercials and the appeal around it. Remember that old Pokemon commercial where there's one person in an apartment window, then the other person on the other apartment building, and there's a link cable that connects the two, and the Pokemon are on a tightrope of the link cable going from one Game Boy to another one. Remember the commercial?
I don't think I was in the country back then.
Oh, true. I forget that you're in Peru.
Yeah.
That was a famous American commercial for promoting Pokemon the game.
It was probably great. I mean, the Pokemon boom pretty much was everywhere.
Yes.
Not only in the US, it was in South America too. So, so it was probably pretty huge in here in the US. I can imagine.
It was.
I can imagine. And it's great to have been a part of that. But
I love being a part of that.
Me too. I had that game, the red version, and it was amazing.
That fad made anime popular, it made video games popular, and for me that was a golden age for me.
That was a nice stage.
Now what's the fad nowadays?
No.
Lady Gaga music. That's really the fad nowadays.
I don't know. There are different things that are trending today.
That's the trend right now, at least in popular media.
In popular media, I think sex and stuff like that is pretty much the mainstream thing. Because of the partying and getting drunk and...
Oh, also another fun mainstream, discrediting younger generations, because there are actually documentaries that are saying age of stupid. That's one popular thing right now. I don't like to pay attention to that either.
Yeah, I don't like to generalize, but
Nor do I.
But definitely the Jersey Shore is not really something nice.
But yes, it's making fun of youth, music, sports, perhaps.
I mean, that has to do with the media. That's what the media owners want to
marketing going on right now.
Yeah, that's where they want to go. That's what they want to show.
Is that a phone call?
It doesn't.
No,
it's
no
not,
phone call.
It's not sounding in there.
Shoot.
But that's pretty much what the mainstream media wants to show. They want to shove into the teenagers today.
All right. The reason why I mention that is because there's a mainstream that game company presidents and marketers want us to follow. That's what makes the most sales for them. Because you know Reggie Fils-Aimé, right?
Yes.
He says he only wants to release games that are released at a proper time, when it's strategically marketable.
So what other game do you think it's a must play for gamers?
Donkey Kong.
Ooh, definitely. That is a game that is still, to me, it's still very appealing to the eye and still very appealing in gameplay mechanics.
Because it's really cool that Donkey Kong was the origin of Mario, and then it gets its own series by the help of Rareware.
Yes.
But it's a shame that Rareware is not so popular now. That's because they got sucked up by Microsoft, and that's where Rareware fell. If Rareware stayed with Nintendo this entire time, they could have been something.
Well, they probably could have done more games with those legendary franchises.
They could have been popular nowadays. It's just like with Sega. If they knew how to launch their games right and launch better games, we would have seen Sega in the race.
Yes. But still, Donkey Kong, I think it has aged very well. It has amazing music. It has amazing graphics.
Yeah, the fortunate thing is it's aged well, so we can introduce younger gamers to it.
Definitely. That is one of the games that on my list of must-play games and recommendable games for new gamers. Definitely. Donkey Kong Country.
Definitely.
Amazing game.
Donkey Kong Country, Donkey Kong 64, Donkey Konga even.
Yeah. Well, I never played Donkey Konga, but the first
it's
one...
fun to play.
The first one, oh my god.
Yes, we think that all gamers should be introduced with that.
Yeah, definitely. That is
that I call it a good introduction.
Yeah. What other game?
Mega Man. I just talked to someone yesterday, and they don't even know who the Blue Bomber is, and I thought that was popular.
Well,
less and less people know about Mega Man.
Definitely.
It's still very popular. We're still talking about Mega Man.
My favorite of the series is probably the number 3, but I still think that
You mean Mega Man 3 or Mega Man X3?
No, the
Mega Man 3.
The 3, number 3. But I think that maybe those first games may be a little bit hard for newcomers, definitely.
But why is Mega Man not popular? I have a speculation. I think it's because Mega Man does not make enough games, maybe.
And well, aside from
yes, we do believe
going back to the topic.
Street Fighter definitely for all gamers.
Well, yeah, definitely try Street Fighter 2 at least.
Sure. Maybe I will admit that Fighting Street 1 would not be the good way to start.
No.
Definitely Street Fighter 2. But I believe Street Fighter 1 was on Neo Geo and TurboGrafx, I think.
I don't remember, to be sincere.
I know TurboGrafx because I played it on that.
But I will say go with the SNES version of Street Fighter 2.
Or get the chance for an arcade version.
Well, that's
if you can find it.
That's kind of hard.
But have that desire too.
Yeah, and I even recommend playing Street Fighter 2 once in your life, even though I'm not really much of a fighting game fan, because I suck at those games.
Now, what about Mortal Kombat?
I think the first one is a must play too, and just because of how it influenced future games.
Well, that's really influenced in American gaming, because I was told that Mortal Kombat was not so popular in Japan at all, but only in America.
Oh.
What about Peru?
It was totally popular back then.
But what about a puzzle game like Puyo Puyo? Do you know that game?
Yes, I know it, but I don't think that was that popular.
It was very popular in Japan, but just not so much in the other countries. But do you think we should also have gamers to play that too?
I think so. If they are into puzzle games, if they want to have fun with those kind of puzzle addicting games, sure, why not?
Okay, so those who know the puzzle genre should at least know that.
Yeah, definitely.
And at least a Final Fantasy game, definitely.
Yeah, the one I recommend is the number 8.
Yes, you talked about that.
Yeah, and that's because I think it has aged very well, and can still look very appealing to the newcomers and new gamers. And well, it was a pretty charming game, and it had all these guardian forces that look pretty cool. it was a nice game.
I love that game. Some people say it's too complex sometimes, but I loved
So
it.
it was actually my first Final Fantasy ever. So
You beat it, right?
yes,
Oh, beautiful.
yeah, that was a nice game.
The final boss, what do you pronounce it as? Ultimechia or Ultimecia?
I think Ultimecia.
Okay, because I call it Ultimechia.
Well, no problem with that.
Oh, it's still a great game. Still a great game.
We still know who she or he is.
She. It's a sorceress.
Okay.
What about Dragon Quest? It's getting popular nowadays. So if you were to get into an old series in Japan, now's the time to do it.
Well, I'm not much of an RPGer, but I probably want to try the latest one at some point. But since I'm not much of an RPGer myself these days, I probably won't get into that. But I think for a person that wants to get into RPGs, they should definitely check out the Dragon Quest series, especially the latest game, because I know you're pretty addicted to it.
I'm still into it.
Yes,
I'm getting so many things.
So I think that's also good for people who are getting into RPG genre.
But what about the now dead-ish character that's trying to revive Sonic the Hedgehog?
Well, that depends on Sega pretty much. If they can pull off a great game, that's up.
But
to
do you
them.
think all gamers should at least know Sonic?
Definitely, it's a classic character.
Definitely.
Even to me, who I have never been a Sega fan, I have never been much of a Sega guy.
I know it. I remember you saying that you're not much of a Sega person.
I'm definitely not, because back in my home country, it was all Nintendo back in the
That's
day.
amazing.
Yeah, but I still had interest in getting to know the blue guy.
Because Nintendo, with America, it was all about Nintendo versus Sega.
I know, and it's and
Well, that's at least with America.
I wish I would have been here and been part of that Sega versus Nintendo, but unluckily it wasn't my case.
I just want to say, no matter what happens in each country, it's always cool to see how
No, keep going.
how the different politics work in each country, how games were popular in whichever age. For Japan, it was Dragon Quest, people getting mugged for the game, the Dragon Quest only being released on Sundays, or America with just Mario, only with violent games. It's really cool to see all the different ways that gaming was popular in many countries. It's really cool to just hear those stories. And then if you know all the games, you can relate to it. And a true gamer could be able to relate to it just a little bit, at least.
Yes.
Well, what else do you think gamers should know?
To me, Zelda: A Link to the Past. I mean, you recommended a later game.
Yes.
But I think, as I haven't played that game yet,
I think both are great starters.
One of my list will be Zelda: A Link to the Past. I think it looks great still. I played on Virtual Console on the Wii, and even when playing on an HD TV, I think it looked pretty nice.
I beat both the original versions and I loved it.
Yeah.
Well, of course I'd recommend Zelda. I loved it so much that I beat every game on it except for 2.5 games, unfortunately, which was Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, and the other half was the Four Swords half, because I needed 3 other friends that played the same game as I did, which was hard, and had link cables. That's hard.
But I think
But I need to beat the game and beat the entire Zelda series.
I think Zelda: Link to the Past is a good way to get new players into the
2D gaming
into
also.
the 2D Zelda games, because there's also 3D Zelda games.
Oh, of course.
They're different.
Well, we're in our last 5 minutes. Now, let's talk about why do we feel that these games that we've listed are important
Well, not only because those,
in making a true gamer. Why do we say it?
aside from these games having a special place in our hearts, in our
Yes.
gaming hearts, these games pave the way to future games, in my opinion.
Now, the reason why I feel I make the argument is because to know at least pieces of history in gaming, not one generation would be ignored. Or we'd say that everything I'm playing now, it's all there is. I don't want any gamer to ever say that. That's the opposite of what a true gamer is.
Yes, and it's these games are recommended because these are awesome games that have different gameplay mechanics. They're all different.
Would you
They're
ever
nice.
want 50 years in the future to say Pokemon is old news?
Not really, but I hope that
What about in 50 years in the future, would you ever want anyone to call Mario old news?
I don't think that will
Because that's
happen.
what we were kind of accusing Pong of, or Pac-Man.
I
would never want to say that.
Definitely not. I mean, as much as I'm not into those kind of short games that don't really have, they are not really long in the gameplay mechanics, I think they still have a special place in gaming history, and they should not be ignored.
Because oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Because I want to say that I think a true gamer, his goal should be keeping gaming alive.
Definitely. Not only that, but showing everyone that gaming is not bad, that gaming is something normal. It's just something that you have fun with.
To others, you want to keep gaming alive. For you and for others and for yourself, you want to learn more about games, and that's what I think builds the true gamer.
Well, I'm less into getting knowledge, but to extend. I mean, I think knowledge
to extend,
is
to experience more, is to know more, of
Yeah.
course.
I think it's
But
important.
to stop learning that's when you stop being the true gamer.
Maybe yes, maybe.
No, that's
yes.
how I feel, because if, like I said, if you stick to only retro games, or you stick to only contemporary games, you will not know a third of gaming or a fourth of gaming, or in hundreds of years to come, you'll not know even a tenth of gaming.
Yeah, you'll miss out on great experiences, definitely.
And that's how I feel makes a true gamer.
It's all about open-mindedness.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
And the personality of true gamer, even when they lose or win, they should always be cool in the end.
Yes.
That's
definitely. It's a
the-
game. It's a game. It's a video game. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be fun.
That's the sports ethic you should have with playing a game. You should always be
Yes.
cool with it. And as far as learning more, you should always be wanting to learn more. And how you should support games, you should not call it child's play or you are weird. It's gaming is fun for anyone.
Yes.
Just as the president suggests, that gaming is fun for anyone. All right. Do we have anything else to say, or does that wrap up the episode? All right. Any final closing statements we'd like to say?
Hello, Mom. Nah. I think we have shared pretty much everything that a true gamer is.
Gamers should keep games alive, should always be playing games, should always challenge themselves. That's what I think a true gamer is.
Hey guys, I'm back at the studio.
Sup,
And
Dan?
I listened to you guys all the way here from the car, and I gotta say, very good live first show.
No, thank you so much.
You guys should definitely move here week after week, just going live. You guys were terrific.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, and
Hopefully
great
we'll
show.
have the phone to work.
Oh, absolutely. But hey, we got it the last time, so
Yeah.
now we just need to get some communications in there.
Good.
Make a simple format. But you guys did great. You guys got 4 callers today. I was very pleased.
Yay.
Well, only
What?
2 worked.
At least they called.
That's one. That's good.
That's good.
It's always good to have.
All right, so next week is WRFC Live.
But I want them to participate more, definitely.
Yes, for sure. And next week, WRFC Live, you guys will be on the air again, 12 to 1. Make sure to tune in to Big Game Freaks. Take it away, guys.
We're gonna do live next week as well.
We're going live.
Next week as well.
We're going live.
All right. For those who didn't get the chance to participate, we'll do another live episode, and we'll perhaps do our next topic on platform gaming exclusively.
That sounds nice.
We will go through a little history and we'll talk about platform games and how you guys experience it, and that will be next week's episode. Come in next week.
Okay.
We'll have
guys.
the mics fixed by then.
Okay. Take care, guys.
See you next time.
All right.